Coach, we change a little bit now. We kind of roll into game week preparations, and now that school starts here next week?
Yeah, we will. We're going to get this scrimmage graded for today. Got to announce some single digits here in a little bit. Those are always fun calls to make. And, you know, the guys that don't get them, that's always tough, you know. Your young guys take it better than the older guys, because the older guys, you know, it's their last time. If they didn't get a single digit, it bothers them. But I want it to bother them, right? I just don't want to let it ruin our season or ruin their season. But I do want it to bother them, because those single digits mean a lot to our guys.
I was going to say, that's become maybe the biggest deal part of fall camp. I mean, how exciting is that day?
You know, it's so funny you bring that up, because I brought that up to my players today. You know, I gave the analogy of when I was having to pick between Frank Harris, Lowell Narcisse, and Josh Atkins, right? It sounds great because everybody's celebrating Frank, but I'm the one that has to be in there with Lowell. I'm the one that's got to be in there with Josh. So in my job, most of the time I'm dealing with the things that are unpleasant. I don't get to deal with, because the guys that are single digits, there's only a few of them. That means there's like 100 guys that didn't get them, and that's what I'm usually dealing with most of the time. But yes, for the victors and the guys that get the numbers, what is that saying about the spoils, whatever that is, they're happy, but I'm dealing with other stuff.
Could you possibly, Coach Traylor, give me an example of whether it was one of us or a fan asking you something that is a culture pillar violation? What would an example of that be?
Bella just did it a while ago. She's asking me about the new conference, you know, and I'm like, well, this is technically a culture pillar violation, right? We got to get through Conference USA first. But y'all have y'all's job to do, right? Y'all are famous for asking me about Texas on September 17th. I mean, what a culture pillar violation. But you have your jobs to do, and I really do understand that. And I try my best to be a guy that's a good sport for y'all without helping my opponent too much, right?
But we haven't learned enough yet, I guess.
No, y'all are best. San Antonio is the best city and the best media and the best food.
And one more from me. When you have a guy like Cephas and Clark, who are 6'3", how much of an advantage is that really when it comes to high pointing catches and kind of winning one-on-ones with their size?
And that's my preference. If you look at the National Football League right now, there's tons of guys that are 6 foot and 6'1" that are really tearing the league up right now. It's about timing. You know, we've got some 6'4" guys, 6'5" guys on our team that don't necessarily high point the ball that well. And it's something that I do believe it can be a learned trait. We spend a ton of time for you guys that come to practice. It's phenomenal how many times we throw the ball down the field. I mean, for our receivers and our DBs, because I also believe it's the hardest skill, other than probably catching punts, as a DB, to go up and high point the ball at the right time. Because the receivers are natural at it. That's why they're playing receivers. If not, they'd be playing DB.
Do all three of those guys have the skill set to play on Sundays?
You know, it's such a, it's just such a tough league. They all have the skill set. There's no doubt. There's no doubt they have the skill set. I'd pick them because I love them. They're on my team, right? So I hope I have them. If I ever get to that level, I'd pick them again, right? We talk about that quite a bit. We argue all the time. Like, you had to pick one of them. Which one would you pick? Because each one of them have their things they're really good at, and they don't have many weaknesses. What I love the most about all of them, they are all willing participants on blocking. They take great pride in blocking. Like, we dominate on the perimeter. And there are very few receivers in the country that have that kind of athletic ability with those kind of stats that love manhandling DBs out there. I mean, they get after it blocking, which Coach Price deserves a lot of credit, as Coach Stein did last year for coaching those guys and developing them.
How do they complement each other when they're all out there in three wide-out packages?
You know, they're each just different. I mean, they're just different. And I really just don't want to get into it too much, just because it would look like I'd be, comparing them to each other, which then they would take that as a contrast. And so they're just different, and I'm glad they're out there. And it's hard to go 12 personnel because I know I'm putting one of them on the bench.
When you have those three coming back, I was going to ask that, how much do you have to kind of check yourself to not get too pass happy, knowing they've done it and they've proved themselves?
I've said this a million times before, so I know y'all get tired of it. The main reason I have that 210 triangular toughness brand on my wall is to hold the head coach accountable, right? Because I know you've got to be great on defense first, and I want to be reminded of that, right? I know you have to run the football. If you don't run the football, you're not going to be great on defense. You're not going to be in good down and distance, because my nature is to throw it every snap. That's really when you cut me up what I'd rather do. So the third piece of that triangle of toughness is to put your best players on special teams, right? My nature would be hide JT, hide Josh, hide Zakari, don't get them hurt. So I put all those things on that wall really to talk to the head coach. Because if I know me, if I say it to y'all and I put it somewhere I can see it, I'll hold myself accountable to it. The internal mind, you can talk yourself into a lot of things in your mind. When you put something on a wall, when you speak the words, you have to be way more accountable to yourself when you say it and you put it on a wall.
Jeff, I think there's 8 TV cameras in this room. How do you deal with all the added attention headed into the season? Is that a real thing you have to talk to with your players?
Our kids deserve it, man. If you'll come hang around them and be around them, man, who wouldn't fall in love with our kids? I mean, yesterday, if you just watch them at the pool, like the ladies that work over at the pool literally said, you had the best kids. Like, I mean, they put 2 of my kids in timeout, and it was Rigsby and McDougal, and you know, they're college football players. They both sat there in timeout with their arms folded, their legs crossed. We filmed them, put them on social media, make fun of them. We had the coaches' wives here last night, the coaches' kids here, and the whole team's out there eating ice cream with them, teach them how to throw a football, teach them how to tackle, and we got 30 coaches' kids out there. And which means I'm giving my coaches way too much time off. We got that many kids running around. But my coaches' kids loved it, and those players, so they deserve all the attention, man. And the more cameras we got in here, the more possible NIL deals we get from boosters. So y'all come on.
Coach, I know you got your own thing going on, but have you been able to pay attention to what's going on with Tariq and the success he's having up there in Seattle?
Oh yeah, we celebrate our guys every day. That's part of my team meeting. We had Leroy up today. I mean, he was skipping out there, and he still loves ball, right? Tariq, you know, we showed him running down, you know, the quarterback for the Bears. I mean, we celebrate everything they do. We talk about them. Those guys are why we're here. Without those guys, who knows? I mean, are we in the AAC? I mean, what's this thing like without all those wins? I think all those wins had something to do with all that stuff.
Absolutely. He shouldn't have fell that far, if you ask me, but it never.
You know,
we don't know how that works sometimes.
Well, his is just lack of video evidence. You know, he just had only played corner for so long. He'd been a receiver most of his life, so he knew if he came out, he'd be a little bit later in the pick, but he was playing for that second contract, and he's going to get that second contract a lot quicker the way he's playing right now.
26 hours and 2 weeks from now, you'll be kicking off against Houston. Just what's the anticipation like inside this building?
I think it's just now starting to hit to us a little bit because we've been so fall camp mindset. But I think it's going to be literally pull yourself out of it and just be a fan, and don't be a coach, don't be a media guy. That's a really good football game and a really great place to go. And I'd be there, like literally, I would be there.
What's your expectation for what crowd size you're going to get for that season opener?
You know, I don't even want to go there in my mind. I really don't, because I don't want to be disappointed. So I'm trying to fly low right now on that situation. I know this: when we had 25,000, it sounds like 60,000. So I would hope we're in the 40s, but if we're not, I don't want one of y'all coming back saying, "Coach, you expected 40. Are you disappointed?" Because I just want to win. I want the crowd to be loud. I will say this: I don't think we beat Western Kentucky. I don't think we beat UAB without our crowd. So if our city really does want to get that done, we're going to need them, and we're going to need them. It's not a coincidence. All those snaps go all those quarterbacks' heads, and all those penalties, and all those things that teams never do. That's not a coincidence. Our crowd is really getting good, and when Frank Harris has the ball, being really quiet, and when the Toon kid has the ball, be really, really loud, because Clayton, he's really good.
Thanks, Jeff.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Coach.